So we had a fourth wall break on the 4th episode of the series. That's some meta stuff right there. That's truly some meta. But that out of the way though, this episode had one goal. One major goal. And that goal was Joro Moonkun confronting every individual that wronged him in the previous episodes and wanting to make up and be friends and let bygones be bygones. Now, I could see a lot of people having problems with this episode, and I could see a lot of people potentially dropping the series because of this episode. Now, before I go any further, to clarify my stance on this episode, I did enjoy the episode. I really did enjoy the episode. However, I do have some problems with it, especially when it comes to the main point of what this episode was. But, like I said, it was a good episode, and I want to get into my thoughts on it in just a second. But this episode is just, it pretty much shows kind of that the writer of the series, I think, was like, what else am I really gonna do now? After the whole plot and issues that happened in the previous episodes, the first arc of the story, you know, I think, or I felt while watching this, that the writer was like, well, obviously I can't just, you know, have, you know, the main male character Joro with Pansy. I can't have those two just alone by themselves, because then there would actually be romantic progression, and then the series would have to end, because that's not really what this is. It's supposed to be an anti-harem, but it's, you know, trying to basically go and get its ending already, especially with the last arc. So, it felt like to me, the writer was like, I have nothing else I really can do right now. I have to have Joro confront all the individuals that, you know, he kind of swore off as friends with what they did to him in the last episode. He has to confront them, and they need to try to become friends once again. That's what it felt like. That's honestly what this episode felt like. It's kind of like the writer extending the story unnecessarily. But the point is, though, I will give the extension a slide for one critical reason. And that is the fact that there hasn't really been enough time for Joro to really get emotionally attached to Pansy at this time. So when you think about it, I do think if the story would have ended in the previous episode, it wouldn't have been good. Because, like I said, there was no emotional attachment with Joro and the female character. So, there needs to be something. There needs to be conflict and emotional growth, etc. between them before they could actually become a couple. Because at this point, let's be honest, those two are probably going to end up together. But, even then, though, there still needs to be development for that. So, yeah. But, getting back into it, though, this episode was good. In terms of how it did handle trying to have Joro confront everybody and try to be friends again, it did feel oddly enough realistic to a certain degree. And let me explain. At the end of the day, you gotta remember that this is high school, okay? They're in high school, and when you're in high school, you know, things like this, maybe it's over-dramatized to a certain extent within this series, but drama and stuff like this does kind of happen. You have friend groups have arguments, and then they have falling outs, and then they get back together. It's kind of a thing. I know for a fact it is a thing. It does happen. Maybe not to such an extreme degree as what happened in the last episode, but it kind of does. But there's more than that. Also, you have the fact that when you have a routine, like something that is natural to you, like a habit, breaking that habit or that routine is very hard. It really is hard, and not something you necessarily can just get over or change in an instant. And you gotta think about Joro's life up to this very point in time. He always had his best friend, Sun-kun. He had his childhood friend that he would walk to school with. He would meet his childhood friend and, you know, his best friend at school. He would go to the student council president and, you know, chat with Cosmos. He would definitely, you know, have this habit, this routine he's had for a little bit now. So, breaking that habit is not something that is easy. So, falling back in line into that habit is easier. And so, it's much easier to pretty much try to forgive and get back into it and move on than to just completely cut someone out and move on and be isolated for the rest of your time in high school. Now, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen, because it definitely does happen, but you gotta think about from the situation, routine, etc. But it extends even further. Also, you gotta factor in that when it comes to Joro's situation, you know, he was given a slap basically by Pansy, telling him that trying to push it off and acting like you don't want to do it, you could save it for later, etc., is not the way to go about it. You know, this is something that even I am at fault for. There's been many things I know I need to do at this second, but I push it off, and I push it off, and eventually it just never happens, because I push it off so much. And that's kind of what was being told to Joro in this episode, is that the longer you push off trying to confront these individuals, even though you have the emotion to be with them, the harder it's going to be to be able to make up with them, but also the harder it's going to be to even be able to get back into that routine with them again, because the longer you wait, it will become your new routine to ignore them and not be around them. And obviously Pansy did not want that, because she truly knew deep inside in her own way that Joro wasn't necessarily happy with his situation. Not because he was just in the library with her, but he was unhappy because he lost a lot of people in his life that he's had for a very long time. Even if they're scum, and to a certain degree, it's still he lost a big part of himself, and it's kind of hard to move past that. So the episode is good. It is a good episode, and that's kind of what I want to get the point across of. It's a good episode, but like I said, in terms of what the summary of it is, it literally is just the writer extending the story unnecessarily. I mean, there's other ways that could have been done with this. Like, you could have forgiveness, or maybe Joro ignores them for a while, you have a whole arc on it, him overcoming it, finding a new group of friends, etc., and seeing the other characters go on their life and eventually ask for forgiveness, etc. Something like that could have happened. I felt like, you know, there could have been more from their side confronting Joro, but I guess at the end of the day, it goes along with Joro's character, because he is someone that is good-natured in his heart, because even though he has some corrupt motives and some evil sides to him, especially wanting a true harem ending, he does have a good heart and thinks about everyone, and he cares about them. So him confronting and basically being the one to initiate the apologies, etc., and wanting to be friends, makes sense. It falls in line. So yeah. But, the big point, though, I want to kind of get into is, at this time, I do think that Oriwasuki is in a very shaky state, because it has a lot of potential to be extremely good, but also the potential to just straight up fall on its back and be absolute garbage. And the reason why I say that is because of two major reasons. Number one, you have it to where it could turn into a regular harem. And even though I'm not saying all harems are bad, it just, once again, it kind of goes against what the point of the premiere of this story was about. And kind of turning into a harem ruins what was started, and loses that oomph it had that really made a lot of people want to, you know, read or watch this story. But also the second thing is that not just the potential harem that can start, but it's also the fact that with now all the characters being back together again, it's seeming more and more likely now that we're going to have more conflict with these characters, and it's going to be a constant reoccurring thing. You know, Joro having to help out, you know, the two girls most likely get with Sun-kun or etc., and, you know, it's just going to be constant conflict within that group that can just get rather annoying and dragged on, or just constant conflict to really stir the pot amongst the friends. Like, you see the blue-haired girl that is introduced within this episode that is kind of doing the exact same thing that happened in the last arc, kind of trying to, you know, make Joro look like he's absolute garbage, make him look bad, etc., and trying to make pretty much everybody hate him. That's kind of what it looks like at the end of this episode, with the blue hair girl, like, putting everything together for her, like, her report. So, I do hope it doesn't go down those routes, but it's likely it could. However, I will say this. I am calling it right here, right now, for the time being. I do believe that the two characters that was asking Joro to get with Sun-kun is probably going to fall in love with him. Because after what he did for them in the previous episode, and now that they're back together as friends, etc., I do believe that, you know, they'll probably fall in love with him and want to be with him, but obviously it's not going to happen because Pansy's going to be the one that's going to win, even though Joro does technically want a harem ending. Which, by the way, speaking of that, I guess let's get into the personality of him. Joro, the episode, honestly, it really misleads you in a way. Like, it's a very fluffy and encouraging episode, seeing him talk with his friends and, you know, being friends with everybody again. But then right at the final moments of the episode, you just see the true personality of Joro start to think to himself, like, yeah, they're all here. I'm not gonna miss my chance. I have the advantage now. All these pretty girls here, you know, I want to get my true harem ending. And I'm just like, oh my god, like, really? It kind of gives you a wake-up call and lets you realize what type of person behind the scenes he is, too. So I think it's hilarious. I do think that Pansy most likely knows about it. I doubt, with how much stalking she's done and watched him, etc., how much she loves him and is able to really encourage him to such a degree to make friends again. I do think she's probably aware of what he's probably thinking, because she did laugh and all that and act like she was oblivious, but it's kind of clear that she did know. But, yeah. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.